Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the A Collision with Purpose project in the Spotlight. Here, individuals are given the opportunity to explore self in pursuit of their purpose. I am Dr.Laxley Stephenson, and I'm your host. The A Collision with Purpose project allows individuals to pause, take a quiet moment and listen, be introspective, and engage in self-reflection in pursuing their purpose to unleash possibilities with far-reaching implications for self and others. Today, the A Collision with Purpose project spotlight is on Elder Joan T. Randall. Elder Randall is a mother and a grandmother. She is an international speaker, award-winning, multi-best-selling author. She's a business coach, an independent publisher. She is president of Joan T. Randall Enterprise LLC, founder of Victorious You Press, and creator of the Intensive Academy's Book to Business and Beyond. Wow, this is a bio, but let me continue. Elder Randall is a recipient of the Women's Entrepreneurship Certificate in Homiletics from Howard University and is a certified life coach, public speaker, and domestic violence advocate. Folks, let us welcome Elder Joan T. Randall to the A Collision with Purpose project in the Spotlight.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Laxley. It is such an honor and a pleasure to be here. And boy, listening to that thing, I'm like, oh my God, it's so much. But I am so appreciative and honored to be here. Thank you.
Well, it's so much, but guess what? All achieved, right? All attained.
Absolutely.
So, Elder Joan, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the A Collision with Purpose project in the Spotlight. I am looking forward to having an engaging, insightful, and interactive conversation with you about a topic which I believe is arguably one of the most consequential concepts informing how we function as individuals and ultimately what we perceive as our legacy.
Yeah. Yeah, I cannot wait to have this conversation. I've watched you do so many of these interviews and have so many of these conversations. And I'm just happy now I get the opportunity to put my insight and my spin and my knowledge of self, right? My knowledge of self to this conversation.
And I so appreciate you for saying that because at the end of the day, it's all about knowledge of self, isn't it?
Yes,
That's what
yes,
purpose is
sir.
about.
Yep.
Yes, indeed. So before we dive into our conversation about purpose, I want you to take me back to your early days. What was it like growing up?
Wow, the first thing that comes to mind as you say that to me is how different I was from my siblings and my cousins. I remember as this young girl growing up on the island of Jamaica that I was never one to play outside and climb trees and pick the fruits like everybody else. I was so different. I was always insightful. And this is what my earliest memory as a child was. There are three things that stand out. Number one, I was about 6 or 7 years old, and I was a smart. That looking back, I could say I was smart, right? I was going to primary school, or that's the term we used then. But everything I learned, I also wanted to help others learn. So I would gather the children in my neighborhood, and we had this big board, at the place that we lived, and I would bring home chalk from school. And so I would teach all of these kids how to spell their names and how to break it up in syllables. And I cannot forget my very best friend. Her name was Sharon Calhoun, and her name was spelled Calquhoun. So she had a difficult time spelling her name and memorizing how to spell her name. She knew it, but it was hard for her. So we were the same age, but I was way advanced than she was. So I would teach her. I would put COL with a strike down the middle, QUH with another strike, and then OUN. So I was teaching her how to Kahaloon, right? Kaloon. And that was in my memory. And then I did that every weekend until I got to about probably 8 years old. I started teaching people the 66 books of the Bible, not people, kids. So I would write on this board, Genesis to Revelation, right? There were 33 books in the Old Testament, 27 books in the New Testament, and I would teach them to memorize all 66 books of the Bible. That was my earliest memory. But then I got to be a teenager, and when everybody else was playing, I would sit on my parents' veranda and I would look out to the horizon and dream of what it would be like for me to be beyond the horizon. I always wanted to know what's over there beyond that water. And sometimes I would see the cruise ships passing by, and I would sit and think, I wonder what are the people that are taking this cruise now doing? So my mind was always steps ahead of where I was. It was like my body was here, but I was trying to play catch up because my mind was so expansive, Dr. Laxley. That's what I remember about myself.
You said some things there, your difference, playing with words, teaching. But I like what you said about chasing the horizon.
Yeah,
And that's a moving thing, right? So you'll never
yeah.
get there, but you're always progressing in doing so. Isn't that what it's about?
That's amazing that you summed it up that way. Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
exactly what you're doing. And so much of what you do now is informed by your early childhood and the things
Yes.
yeah. So quite interesting.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, given the meaning and the consequential implications of purpose,
Yeah.
I believe that a good place for us to start our conversation is for you to define purpose. But please do so in a general way, not
Yeah.
your purpose, but
Yeah.
in general terms.
For that which we were created,
Mm, just like that,
just like that.
just
That
like
is
that.
purpose. For that which we were created.
Mm,
I
that
think
tells,
it's, yeah,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that that is the most personal, profound, and prophetic way of
Mm,
saying what is purpose.
right, and that tells me that it's important. Can you
Yes.
talk about the importance of purpose, why we should have some understanding of what it's about?
Because what it was why we were here, first of all, and it is what we are assigned to do, and it is also for those that we are called to serve. Now, that may seem a little far-fetched to a lot of people, right? But if you look at all of the facts of what purpose is, if I just say for that which we are created, it means there is a reason for us being here. And whether that reason is due to an experience we've had, a lesson we have learned, a life we have lived, a unique gift or talent or skill or treasure that we have, it is always to serve others, to do something with it, to give of it, right? I see purpose as a seed, right? To me, purpose is a seed. And the only way a seed becomes a seedling, becomes a tree, and bear fruit is if we do something with it. So, whatever we are given, whatever we feel like is our gift or skills or whatever it is, something has to be done with that. An action has to be taken for it to create another action, right? It's so like it's when you plant the seed, you water it, a seedling bears, then the tree bears, then the fruit is the harvest. That is how I see purpose as a seed. Now, I know you're going to ask me this, so allow me to go a little bit further. Some people say, I don't know what my purpose is. But I believe that sometimes chaos and noise prevents us from hearing, right? Because sometimes we're caught up in life's moments, life's calamities, life's chaos. And because we're in the grind and the monotony of what life does, being a parent, being a spouse, working, preparing, we don't get time to shut our brain down and allow us to really think about, why am I here? First of all, who am I? Who am I? And why was I created? For what am I purposed to do? And if we can ask ourselves those three questions, chances are we can dig deep and find it in us. It's that thing we love. It's that thing that we do without even thinking about it. It's that thing that makes us stand out. It's that thing that makes us different. And yet, there are times when just being different, we feel as if it's not good enough, when that's exactly what we're supposed to be, different, because we were created uniquely.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you talk about what we're created for, what we're purpose for. Tell me about your purpose, Elder Joan.
I know I was created to impact lives through storytelling. And I knew that from when I was 6 years old, teaching those children how to memorize the 66 books of the Bible, teaching Sharon, my best friend, how to spell her last name and how to pronounce it. And so I go back and I'm like, I was 6, I was 7, I was 8, and I was impacting life so that they can do something with the knowledge that they gained, right? Whether it's Sharon knowing how to spell her name and pronounce it correctly, or it was David and Paula and Shelley and Howard knowing how to memorize Genesis to Revelation, right? That which I gave to them is something that they could have used, right? And continually use as they, went through their lives. So I know that I couldn't articulate that a few years ago. If you had asked me maybe 5 years ago, I wouldn't be able to articulate it. But having had the time to sit down and ask myself, who am I? There's a lot of people that cannot answer that question. What are you created to do? What are you purposed to do? And then going back to being 6 years old and realize that the purpose was created in me. It was always there. It was nowhere. What was I seeking? What am I trying to search for? What am I hoping that guru one and teacher one and pastor one could tell me what I already knew, right? And so I knew that I'm created and purposed to impact lives through storytelling. And that's what I'm doing.
That's what you're doing. Elder Joan, you know, let's talk a little bit about events, series of events, destiny, and what you believe informs your purpose. And I would like you to share a pivotal moment that helps to shape your current path as well as you answer that question.
Wow. So the pivotal moment that made me realize that I was not just created to be a mother, a wife, and a career person. I had gone through a really difficult experience in my life where I experienced domestic violence and homelessness. And I remember working for this well-known retailer for 25 years, but it was year 23. And I was in a regional position, executive vice president. And I got an opportunity from the company to donate $20,000 to a charity of my choosing. And I sat there knowing that any charity that gets this $20,000 is going to be feeling good, because it's not that they know to ask us for it, it's that I have it to give to them. And so immediately I knew the charity that I wanted to help. Didn't know the name, but I knew that it had to do something with domestic violence. Now, at this point in my career, most people did not know that I had that past because I was ashamed of it. I was embarrassed by it. And I remember when I reached out, I Googled domestic violence shelter in Charlotte. I reached out to the person and I said, hey, here's who I am. We want to donate a check of $20,000 to you. And she was just so blown away. So, of course, she came to my office and asked, why us? And that was when I shared my story. This made the news. This made the national news in Charlotte. So I had to get dressed. They came, they dolled me up, they took my picture. I was on the news station, I was on in the magazine, I was on the front page cover. It was just this huge, news at the time because I shared that story that I hadn't told. A lot of people didn't know. And so that December, I was asked to be the keynote speaker of the event that this organization has every year. And when I stood on the podium, I told the story in third person. I said, I know this person. She left Jamaica and I went through. And I told the story that you could not hear a pin drop. And then I said, that girl is me. And Dr. Laxley, utter silence until I start to hear like sobs. And the whole place, it erupted. And in that moment, I knew that right there is what I'm supposed to do. I had to tell my story first to activate the impact of helping other people tell their stories.
Confirmation and a collision all at the same time.
Yes, sir. Boom. That's all in your book. That's every part of your book. Pain to purpose, collision with purpose, purpose by design. I had it all.
And crashing.
crashing into purpose. Yes.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
in your bio, you're an international speaker, award-winning, multi-selling author. Talk to me about what you do there and how is that serving your purpose, those positions, those roles?
So you know what? Let me start with the whole international, the best-selling thing. When you recognize the purpose for which you are created, everything just falls into place. You no longer have to, you don't have to get the 40, the WD-40 to oil the engine, right? It just goes smooth, right? Because you recognize this is what I'm here to do. And so I'm going to do it every day I wake up. I find joy in doing it. So I'm going to do it. So the first book was written right after that meeting
Mhm.
that I stand and gave that. As a matter of fact, I left my job a year after that and wrote my first book, right? Because I'm like, oh my God, this is it. And so one book led to book number two, like led to book, and now it's like 15 books, right? But I find joy in giving information. And the thing about being a nonfiction author, it's just that I could write whatever, right? It could be a prayer book, it could be a motivational book, it could be a business book, it could be my memoir, whatever. So, and I just got lucky because just like how I remember watching that ship on the horizon, it is how far can I stretch myself? How can I get knowledge in me? How do I get this book out into the world? What can I do that's different, that's unique, right? And so I love to research, I love to learn. And so that is how this whole international thing happened. Just connected with people in London, in Canada, all over the world that I know. And so once your book is being sold in other countries outside of the country you live in, it's international. But that led to being noticed. And once you are being noticed, then people are asking you to be on their platforms. People are asking you to come to their podcast. That led to me catching the eye of a prince of Cameroon, right? And so I ended up going to Kenya in 2021. And me going to Kenya was just to speak to women because my story was a story of resilience. It was a story of perseverance. It was a story of survival. It was a story of pulling up yourself from the bootstraps. And so meeting, Patrice Saigay and being invited to Kenya was just to speak, but it ended up becoming a workshop. And from that workshop, I created a course. And from that course, I created a whole online platform with Power of the Pen. But it all started with recognizing that this is what I'm supposed to do and let me do it. So it's like it's a snowball reaction, right? It starts with one step and then the second step and then the third step. And the next thing you know, you're climbing on these rungs of the ladder. And the higher you go, the harder it is, but the more opportunities also come into place.
You know, you talked earlier about in your early days looking at the horizon, and I see you're still chasing the horizon, right? So all these things that you're doing into Africa,
Yeah.
all over the place, is
Yeah.
still aligned there with that. Now, you talk about you writing these powerful books, but I know you're also helping others to
Yeah.
get their information out there. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your publishing company,
Yeah.
Victorious U Press.
So I see myself as being on a journey, right? For me, it's not a destination. For me, it's a continuous journey. Because even if I say, well, I'd like to stop at the log cabin, I'm going to stop at the log cabin, I'm going to have some cider, then I'm going to move on, right? So for me, my whole life is a journey, right? Until I'm called home. And so, how do you get the seed inside of you without also sharing the seeds with others, right? So the whole purpose of being able to rinse and repeat what I've done and the level of success that I have accomplished and not share that with others, right? So Victorious You Press was created as a result of helping others to tell their stories. And here's the thing, is to help the underserved and the ones who feel like they don't have a story, but they have a story and just don't know who or where to go to get that story done. So Victorious You Press was really created for the underdog, right? The person who is like, I can't pay for publishing and I don't know which way to go to self-publish. So I created the platform not only to help them, but to teach them, right? And for me, I would love to know that I could teach others to create their own publishing company. So it's not just about coming to me to write a book. It's about coming to me to write a book, but also learning how you can help others write books too. And as you know, even throughout what I'm doing here with this business that I have, it's never about just me and wanting to make money from helping people publish, is to empower them to rinse and repeat what I have done so that they can do it too, or at least have an idea of how to maybe write their next book without even using me. Because I'm always going to be able to have the person that need me, right? But I want to help others because it builds community and it builds economic impact and it empowers others to empower others.
And I know you've published X amount of books. Do you care to say how many?
Almost 400 now.
Almost 400. Hmm. So again, there you go, chasing horizons again. I'm sure that before you know it, you'll do another 400.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, that type of achievement did not come without challenges, I'm sure. So can you share what were some of the challenges you faced while you pursued, your purpose, and how do you stay committed with those type of challenges?
That's such a great question. I have a keynote event in January, and I was putting it together, and something jogged my memory, and it's the perfect question that you asked me. When I first started this publishing business, I've been in the publishing scene for like 8 years, but never wanted to be my own, to have my own publishing imprint, right? Just wanted to write books and help coach people to start their business. So this whole thing wasn't on my radar. But once I decided I would do it, I put it out there. And there was a very prominent, there is a very prominent publisher here in North Carolina. And I am new to this whole publishing thing, right? In terms of helping others. And one day I looked at my calendar and she booked a consultation. And I'm like, oh my God, she booked a consultation to be. So I am like, oh, there is no way she wants a consultation from me, because at that time, she had already had her publishing business for about 15 years. And so the day came, we did our consultation, and it became me answering questions. And at the time, I didn't recognize what she was doing. But long story short, at the end of that conversation, I felt, I'm trying to find the right word to tell you how I felt. I felt inadequate to do the thing that I know was a gift from God. I allowed her to somehow make me feel inadequate. So I started second guessing myself about, what am I doing? Why did I decide to do this business? But that was a fire that was lit in me. So probably she thought that it would have discouraged me because she had so much experience and I was brand new. But little did she know that that is what plays in my head every single day, because it made me take courses. It made me get a mentor. I joined the Independent Book Publishers Association so I could get all of the standards of publishing, so I know what I'm doing. And it allowed me to put myself in places because I'm like, okay, all right, let's do this, Joan. And that was the driving force. It was the thing that was supposed to discourage me that drove me. And so how do I stay motivated to continue? Because everyday challenges comes up. There are days when I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Can somebody just take this off of my hand? But when I get up and I look at my affirmation board and I read the first one on my affirmation board says, I am created by the Creator to be creative. When I read that, it reminds me of who I am, whose I am, and why am I here? And that keeps.
So how can you define that, right?
Yes.
There's no define that. Elder Joan, how do you define success? And how does your purpose align with your definition of success?
So success to me is just being one step further from where you are the last year. All right. So it looks different for everybody. So probably the man that is riding a bicycle for years and one day he buys his car, that's a level of success. It's the person that is working a 9 to 5 as a sales associate and get promoted to a manager. That's a level of success. So success looks different for everyone. Some people define success by money, others define success by health or well-being. So for me, when I think about success, is knowing that 5 years ago, when I started, someone booked a consultation that made me feel inadequate. 5 years later, right, I am awarded the recognition of Entrepreneur to Watch in 2023 and came out in a magazine that that same woman was in. That was success. The same person who tried to take my business, I am now sitting next to her in a magazine recognizing top entrepreneurs in the state of North Carolina. And those are the things. It's the milestones. So you have the macro wins and the micro wins, right? Don't despise the micro wins. Don't despise the little ones that gets to the big ones. And if you can recognize and give yourself a pat on the back for all of the steps of the elevation of the ladder, then you're not trying to go after this big win up there that looks so unachievable and then gets you discouraged, right? And there are times when you have to pat yourself on the back for your successes because people may not know, people may not see it, right? You're on social media, they don't know my story about being homeless or, being a mother that was, ran away with her children. People don't know that story. All they see now is this publisher, right? And so sometimes you've got to pat yourself on the back for the little wins that leads to the big win.
One small bite at a time, huh?
Yes.
One small bite at a time. Let's get back to influence. Again, how your daily actions influence your and your long-term goals as well, influence your purpose. How do you maintain alignment? Some people get off the rail, they lose focus.
Mm-hmm.
What
And
keep
and to be honest, there are times when I do lose focus. There are times when I do lose focus because it is the human existence, it's the human experience, right? So there are times when I lose focus, but what keeps me back on track is the legacy I'm building. It is my children and my grandchildren, right? 100 years from now, they will still know my name. I would have gone and my legacy would have been left. And my youngest grandchild is 5 years old, Izzy, right? When by the time Izzy becomes a grandfather, I won't be here, but Izzy will tell his grandchildren about his grandmother. Because if you go to the Library of Congress, my books will be there. And if you go to the Library of Congress, there's hundreds of books published by Victorious Youth Press, which was owned by his grandmother. So what keeps me going is the legacy that I'm supposed to leave for my grandchildren. The Bible says, right, that when you do things, you should think about it for the third and the fourth generation. I'm paraphrasing the scripture, but I have to leave it for my third and fourth generation. So I might not be able to accomplish that studio that I want to, or what, because I still am looking out on the horizon, Dr. Lax. I still have a big horizon ship thing that's in here, right? That actually on the vision board, right? That I want to accomplish. And everybody knows because it's written, right? You got to write the vision so that those who see it can run with it, right? So if this vision, this big old vision of mine that is bigger than the publishing company, if I don't get to accomplish that, my daughters, my grandchildren will be able, because they know what Gigi was looking for with that macro win, that big old win up top there, right? So that's what keeps me going. The fact that I am of a later year, right? And that what I do now is to impact lives, create legacy, and leave those things for the generation of mine to come, my grandchildren, my great grandchildren.
you talk about your grandson Izzy, and isn't he an artist right now? He's writing.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So it's so funny how your children don't want to do nothing that you do, right? Um, I don't want to do that. Publishing company. Oh, no, that's not mine. I don't want to have it. So I think one of my grandchildren would take it, but my daughter, my youngest daughter, both of them are brilliant, but my youngest daughter has this innate skill of editing and writing. And so sometimes she helps me in the business with editing, but she just wrote a book and the book was written about Izzy. So now every time he picks up the book, Busy Izzy and the Key to Lasting Joy, like, he can turn it and he's not really reading it, but his mom read it to him so much that he memorized the words, right? But he's excited because the book is about him, but it's written by my daughter.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that and
Yeah.
correcting that. Because I always
Yeah.
thought, he was behind it even at 5. Things happen. We're
Yeah,
living in new times, right?
right. It
All
was
things are possible.
all things are possible. The book was inspired by him, all the things that he does and how busy, he is. And so that was where the book came from. So it was really about him.
Okay, thanks for clarifying again. So, Elder
Yeah.
Jones, you talk about, challenges and all that good stuff and things that you had to overcome.
Yeah.
Talk to me about describe a time when your purpose led you to make a very difficult, uncomfortable decision.
Oh my God. Listen, I know you have to go there. Yes. So recently, maybe about a year and a half ago, um, there are times in your life where you found yourself among people that will deter your purpose, right? Either because of negative comments or things like, you need to stop trying so hard, or things like, you can't do it, or things like, how many Black women build a business and fail after 3 to 5 years. And sometimes you find yourself around people that drains your creativity and your energy because of negative talk. And recently I had to make a very difficult decision that impacted my life and the life of my family, because I found myself in an environment where I could not thrive. I felt like my growth was stunned or stunted, or whatever term we want to use. Um, and I was getting sick as a result of not being the best of who I know I am. And I wrestled with the decision, should I stay to save face, right? At the detriment of my creativity and helping others, because sometimes our purpose is a mantle we carry, Dr. Lax. It's heavy. And if someone that is among us doesn't understand the weight of our purpose, they don't know how to support you as you carry that mantle. And so that was the situation I faced. And I had to remove myself from that environment. And the minute I removed myself from that environment, it's like there was a new life, there was a new level. Things that I'd wanted to do and kind of put it on the back burner, I was able to do it. I wanted to do a partnership with another business. I wanted to have a licensing situation with Victoria's U Press. I wanted to bring on a director of operations. And once I left that environment, those things manifested. Those things came to be.
What they call it, the flow, huh?
So
When you're in alignment with who you are.
I was just going to say, so when you know that there is alignment, when you can feel the discernment in your heart and know that I have to make a choice, because if I don't make this choice, I'm out of alignment.
Mhm.
And when you're out of alignment, you're at a standstill, right? You need that WD-40, because now the chain is not turning. Everything is rust, right? But once you can recognize, and sometimes leaving is how you stay in alignment.
Right. So leaving can be a good thing.
Yeah.
It can
It's
be,
difficult, but it's a
yeah,
good, sometimes it's a good
yeah,
thing.
yeah. And the individual must know what is
Yeah.
best
Yeah.
in their situation. You know, I I know that you're an encourager, you're an advisor, you're a life coach.
Yeah.
And how is your work, your purpose impacting others, considering, your role as an encourager, advisor, and as a coach?
I think people see it and just want to replicate what I do, which is amazing. And when I look back at all these books that I've helped to publish or help people become best-selling authors, there's so many people that is role modeling the same strategy I've used when I talk about books to business and beyond. And I think we're now at 45 people that I've assisted in using their book to turn it into a business. I mean, that is incredible. And I feel like doing that and people seeing it and wanting to know if it is possible and me saying yes. And I think that's one of the reasons why I created the boot camp. So I want to show people Victorious You Press started from an idea, right? Then it became a book. Then it became several books. Then the book turned into workbooks, coaching program, online program, workshops, events, publishing company, a movie, right? That was the step. And so I didn't graduate from college. So that also give the average person the ability to see and to understand that you may not have a college degree or something on your wall because of whatever the circumstances are, but it doesn't mean that you can't take some courses and take some lessons and put yourself in situation and do the thing that you're called to do, but just perfect your craft as you're going along. And so I believe that I've role modeled that. And so now people to be able to teach that and to be able to help others do the same thing, I think it's great.
And with saying that, what's the impact? I know you're impacting others. What about the community that you serve?
Oh my God, the impact is amazing. First, let me just say, because I didn't think I answered that part of the question. The other people that have the impact, I can think about a whole bunch of people right now where my model has impacted their lives in so many ways. I've seen people give their life to Christ. I've seen people left their job, build their business, buy new houses, buy new car, got their degrees just from being within our community, right? And so that turns into community now. And being able to even impact community where it's not about publishing, Dr. Laxley, because remember how we talked about the rung of the ladder, and then people now start recognizing, right? I have had the esteemed opportunity to be connected to this organization called the Boost Pad. And what we do at the Boost Pad is help underserved and underrepresented BIPOC founders, right? Black, Indigenous people of color, to give them three things: community, capital, and curriculum. So we teach them how to build their business. We gave them a community of mentors, and then they pitch for capital at the end of the 20-week course. And that has impacted the community. I started there 2 years ago. We have had 58 successful businesses since then, right here in Charlotte, where people are now hiring others to work. So, talk about impacting lives, and then those lives impacting the lives of their family, then the lives of their community. That's community impact. That is a ripple effect. That is one person having an idea, helping one person who helped 10, 10 helps 100, 100 helps 1,000. And that's how you impact the world.
Talking about the multiplication effect, you know, values and beliefs.
Yes.
Talk to me about values and beliefs. What is it that drives you?
So I have 5 values, 5 core values that drives everything that I do, right? It's live, it's learn, it's love, it's lead, and it's legacy. So live today as if it is your last, right? Today, you only have this moment. So do what you can in that moment. Learn, always be a student of the business. Love, building relationships. Lead, share with others what you know. And legacy, if you do all of those, it's going to create a ripple effect. So that's my values. And those are the 5 things that not only do I live it in my life, but that's the 5 values that Victorious You Press is built on. And then you asked me something else, values
and beliefs.
And that's it. And I'm a believer. I'm an elder, so that makes me a believer. But when it comes on to beliefs, my belief system is not religious. It's not religion. It's relationship. It's a spiritual
relationship with God, right? So it's not about laws and bylaws and you can't wear this and you can't wear that and you can't have tattoo and all of that. That's not what it is. It's being able to have a relationship with my creator and reading my word for understanding and understanding who I am, whose I am, what I'm here for, what I'm purposed to do, and then the life I live to impact other lives. That is all driven by my relationship with God. That's my belief.
And clearly you're very proud of your title, elder.
Listen, I don't really say, I don't call it just sometimes it took me a while to even feel comfortable with it. So like it took me forever.
You're wearing it well.
I
And
I
I
am.
want
Now
to
I
ask you
do
a
work.
question. I want to ask you a question about how do you get there? What happened?
So
What
let me
brought you
tell
to that
you,
place?
I've always loved God ever since I was this little girl. I'm telling you, that's why I was teaching people to memorize the 66 books of the Bible at 6 years old, right? And I've gone to every kind of church, Catholic church, Presbyterian, Jehovah's Witness, I mean, Seventh-day Adventist, everything. So I've always loved this whole relationship with God. And that's why I didn't play. I would sit. That's why I'm an I'm always processing things in my head. Like I have these conversations with me all the time. And I think it's bigger than just the physical. I think that there is a supernatural, spiritual thing to all of that. But it was 2020, actually in 2000 and probably 5 years ago. So maybe 2018, 2019, I met Juanita Corey Jackson. She was a pastor and she was a part of a book that I wrote for a church, right? Kingdom, Kingdom Businesses. What is it? My book, I have one of those books here. Kingdom Builders in Business was the name of the book. I just looked at my bookcase and saw it. And we developed a relationship. And I remember we were going to an event one day. It may have been 2019 or 2018. I remember her saying that, she has this church, this group of church in Tennessee, and that there is, she don't talk about members like in her church, but it's about covenant partners. Something struck me when she said that. She says she don't call them members, right? She call them covenant partners. And I don't know, something just like ignited. And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I want to be a part of that. I want to be one of those. I had no idea what it meant. I'm like, I want to be one of those, please. Right. And so she said, I'll send you the paper. She sent me the paperwork a few weeks later, and I just signed up to be a covenant partner. Had no clue what that all meant until later, right? So fast forward to 2020, I was in a really, space. I just launched a publishing company the year before, and it was like really, because we weren't going to church, I was spending a lot of time online doing Apostles Bible study and her Sunday worships and stuff. And I decided that I would become a covenant partner so that she could teach me, because I was yearning. Tahoe says, there's this phrase that Tahoe says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I was ready. And when she showed up, I was open. I was like a sponge to learn from her because she's powerfully anointed. And so we were going to Tennessee at an event, and I had no idea this is going to happen. And we were there in this church on this Sunday, and I remember her calling my name. And when she called my name and I stood up, she said to me that I was going to um, become a minister, which I was excited about. But during that conversation, she said to me, she said, and I wrote out your official certification as a minister, and it was all said and done. But she said God woke her up Sunday morning, the same morning when we were going to be ordained. And she said God told her to change mine completely from minister to elder, which is a higher level. I don't want to use the term higher, but it's a different level, right, than just the minister. And so that is how I was officially got the title Elder Joan T. Randall. And as you read the Bible, right, the elders are the ones that pray not only for the people in the church, but for the pastor. So the elder supports the pastor. The elder is a pastor, right? But the elder's role is not to pastor. The elder's role is to support the pastor. So if something happens to the pastor, the elder will always be able to preach because the elder is a pastor, but the elder's role is to support the pastor, support the leadership of the laymen, the people in the church. So their role is to teach, train, support, lead, guide, so that was it. I had to learn.
Interesting. And new stuff for me there. Thanks for
Yep.
sharing that. It's new, good information, and I'm sure our listeners, some probably don't have a clue
Right.
before, will be enlightened.
Right.
So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
You know, Elder Joan,
Yes, sir.
there are so many individuals out there
Uh-huh.
who are not where you are in terms of knowing what their purpose is,
Yeah.
understanding the significance of knowing.
Yeah.
What advice do you have?
I
Share
would
with me.
I would say to just be still for a while. There is something that comes in the still. And when I say still, I really mean being still. And maybe it is taking a day off, taking a weekend off, going away, finding space to just be one with you. Turn off the television, turn off the music, turn off social media, get away from your family and just go internal and ask the questions. And I love to write, right? So there are times when I will even write the question on the paper. There is something that happens in silence. And when you truly just want to hear a download, and whatever comes to your thought as you're closing your eyes and you're thinking, write those things, write those things. And then think back to a time when you're most happy. When was that? Why were you happy? Who made you happy? What was the circumstances that made you happy? And what did you do with that experience? Right? The who, what, why, when, how. Like, go back to that and look at it. Why was I happy? That's number two. So the first thing is taking your time out to go internally, quiet, right? Then ask the why, who, what, when, where, how, right? Of this time that you were happy. And then think about the thing you love to do most. What is that thing? And why do I love? And same thing. Why do I love it? Who would this serve? I love this so much. It comes so easy to me. How can I share this with someone else that it would be able to help them? And I'm telling you, it'll be right there in front of you. And you're going to say to yourself, my God, I've been sitting on my purpose and it's been there all along.
All this time. Elder Joan, one of my past guests said that purpose leave clues.
Yes.
And I think that's what you're talking about.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, but I'm giving the strategy of how to find the clues.
Get there. Absolutely. Absolutely. As we are coming close to or end of our conversation, there are a couple more things I'd like to ask you.
Yes.
And one is, and you touched on one earlier, legacy.
Yeah.
So what is your hope? What do you hope to leave as your legacy?
When I leave, I want people or those that I've impacted to be able to say, because of Elder Joan T. Randall, I'm where I am today. Because of Elder Joan T. Randall, I wrote a book. I started a business. I built a life for me and my children. I want to be known for how I helped shape somebody's life. And the same thing for my grandchildren. I want them to be, or my children, I want them to be able to say, because my mom believed in herself, because my mom used her pain and turned it around, because my mom recognized that she had the secret that she was ashamed of, but once she vocalized it, she stood on that shame as a platform and changed other people's lives. I want to be known as the person that impacted lives for the better.
For the better. I'm going to share 3 categories, maybe 4.
Okay.
Pain, purpose, purpose by design, passion into purpose, all of the above. Where do you fit in?
All of the above. All of the above. All of it.
You're all of it.
I am all of it because it was the pain, right? It was the pain that I experienced that reminded me that I was designed to do it. But then it was the crashing into it that made me finally say, this is it. It's all of them, Dr. Lax. It was all of them.
All of the above. Okay. And it's important to know that you should know that is, right?
Yeah.
Where you fit in. You know, as we are about to end this conversation, this version of this conversation, I should say, what is that one takeaway that you would like to leave with our listeners? And I want you to think about those individuals that you gave advice to earlier, the ones who are not where you are.
Yeah. So the one advice I would give is that you are selected, you are significant, and you are supplied. You're selected, you're significant, and you're supplied. And that you are here because there is purpose in you. Everything that you ever want to accomplish is already inside. You've just got to surround yourself with the community and the right people to help bring that out. But you got it. It's all in you. And just like I said, one of my first affirmations that I look at every morning is that I am created by the Creator to be creative. So if the Bible says in Genesis 1:28 that we were created in his image, it means just that. And that we were given the dominion and the authority. So if we are created in his image and given dominion and authority, we have the power to make our life happen the way we need it to. And because we're selected and significant and supplied, all we've got to do is activate our power and go after it.
Just act on it, huh?
Yep.
Own it. Own it.
And
So Ella Joan.
yes, sir.
Ella Joan T. Randall.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any closing remarks? Anything else you want to add that you haven't already said?
You know, probably the only thing that the last thing that I would say is just be you and believe in you. That's it. Be you. You know, there's this term that is floating around that is called what is it called? It's like people feel like they're not themselves. The terminology is not coming to mind now. Like they are, and you know, like they're not their true selves. So they look at society and feel like they are a version of themselves that they don't know if it is true. I think that is so commercialized. And if you just be yourself, right? Don't allow social media's highlight reels to become your reality. And sometimes it's hard, but if you do some of the things that we talked about in finding your purpose, the who, why, what, when, where, how, and understand who you are, believe in yourself, you were given a different gift from everybody else. And that's why you are the only one with your unique fingerprint.
And you know, you said something earlier that for you, it's not a destination, it's a pursuit.
It's a pursuit.
You're going
Yes,
after it. So what if you don't get it right? It's okay, right? You just
it's
go
okay.
back at
It's okay.
it.
Look at where you went wrong and learn
Yeah,
from those lessons and just
exactly.
go again.
And be a little bit better the next time out, right?
Yes, sir. Yep. Yep.
So, Elder Joan T. Randall,
Yes, Dr. Laxley Stephenson.
I want to thank you for I want to thank you for joining me today on the Collision with Purpose project in the spotlight.
Thank you
Your
so much.
insights, your conversation today would undoubtedly add immense value to the
Thank you
conversation
so
about
much.
purpose.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to having you back
I would
in the
love to.
spotlight
Yes.
so
I would
we
love
can
to do
continue.
that.
There's so much more, you know, and you have, you know, as you said earlier, it's not a destination for you, so you have yet to tap.
Yeah.
Just beginning, right?
Yep.
You're
Yep.
just beginning, you know, so you have an
It's a journey.
open invitation to come back on.
I would love to. I would love to.
Right, we're on then. We're on.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here. It was an honor being here. And I'm so grateful to you. Those questions were great questions, by the way. And I was just happy to be able to articulate. I hope I answered all of them.
I
So
tell you what, you did. You answered the question as you should.
thank you.
And I'm sure your answers will serve others well because
Yes.
you answered from within you,
Yes.
and that
From the
is your
heart.
purpose.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
your purpose. And the evidence that it will help others is the work that you're doing
Yes.
real time. It's making
Yeah.
such a huge difference in the lives of others. So there's no doubt that your answers will be impactful and will make a difference.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr.
And
Laxley.
I learned a lot from you today, by the way,
Thank you.
which is part of my process, you
Yes.
know, is to learn when I have conversations with individuals like yourself.
Yeah.
So, folks, this brings us to the end of this edition of the A Collision with Purpose project in the Spotlight. If you're like some individuals and would like to have a better understanding of your purpose, then please submit a short video speaking on the topic of purpose to a collision with purpose at gmail.com. Now, if you would like to participate in an interview like this one with Elder Joan T. Randall, then submit your request to be interviewed to a collision with purpose at gmail.com. Please note that your video submission and your interview will be posted on our social media platforms. That is it for now, and blessings always.